10 memories you'll only understand if you grew up in the 1980s Britain. The 1980s in Britain were bold, colorful, and unforgettable. For those who grew up during this decade, memories are stitched together with music, television, school dinners, and seaside adventures. Before the internet, before mobile phones, life felt simpler, yet endlessly exciting. If you grew up in 1980s Britain, you'll remember BMX bikes tearing down the street, the sweet smell of Woolworths Pick and Mix, and the thrill of Thursday nights spent glued to Top of the Pops. These are the 10 memories you'll only understand if you grew up in 1980s Britain. 10. Saturday morning TV marathons. If you were a child of 1980s Britain, your weekends had a sacred ritual: the Saturday morning TV lineup. Before 24-hour children's channels existed, kids had a golden window of entertainment. Shows like Going Live, Multicolored Swap Shop, Number 73, and later Motormouth made mornings magical. You'd wake up early, pour yourself a giant bowl of Frosties or Weetabix, plop down in your pajamas, and stay glued to the telly until the dreaded gardening shows or horse racing began. These programs weren't just about entertainment. They were a shared cultural experience. Monday morning at school, everyone talked about the funny sketches, competitions, or celebrity appearances. This was also the time when children's presenters like Phillip Schofield and Sarah Greene became household names. The mix of cartoons, pop performances, and live chaos made Saturday mornings the heartbeat of childhood in the 1980s Britain. 9. Collecting Panini football stickers. Long before FIFA video games took over playground conversations, Panini sticker albums were the obsession. Whether it was the 1982 World Cup in Spain or the 1986 Mexico edition, these albums became schoolyard currency. The ritual was simple: buy a fresh packet of stickers, rip it open with anticipation, and hope for a rare shiny badge or a player you were missing. Swapping was an art form. Got, need echoed across playgrounds as kids bartered duplicates. Completing an album was like winning a trophy. Some children carefully glued every sticker, while others left them loose, hoping the value would rise someday. Even today, those half-filled albums gather dust in attics. But for those who grew up in 1980s Britain, Panini stickers remain a symbol of friendship, competition, and endless excitement. 8. BMX bikes and grifters. If you grew up in the 1980s, your bike wasn't just transport. It was your freedom. BMX bikes were the ultimate status symbol, the kind of thing you begged Santa for and showed off proudly at the park. The Raleigh Burner became a legend, with its bold colors and stunt-ready design. Not to be outdone, the Raleigh Grifter and Chopper still held their place in playground folklore. The Grifter, heavy but tough, was every kid's dream before the BMX craze truly took over. The Chopper, with its long seat and gear stick, looked more like a motorbike than a bicycle. Afternoons were spent racing down hills, attempting wheelies, and building makeshift ramps out of planks of wood and bricks. Of course, this often ended in scraped knees and bent wheels, but it was all part of growing up in 1980s Britain. 7. Taping songs off the radio. Today, music is instantly available at the tap of a button. But in the 1980s, patience and timing were everything. If you wanted your favorite song, you had to tape it off the radio. Armed with a blank cassette and your trusty tape deck, you'd wait for the top 40 countdown on a Sunday evening. As soon as the opening notes of your song played, you'd slam the record and play buttons simultaneously. If the DJ talked over the intro or outro, frustration was inevitable. The finished mixtapes, filled with chart hits and the occasional accidental news bulletin, became prized possessions. They weren't just playlists. They were soundtracks to growing up in 1980s Britain, shared among friends or saved for long bus rides. 6. the joy of pick and mix. For every child of the 1980s, a trip to Woolworths was a magical adventure. The pick and mix counter was a sugary wonderland, rows of sweets displayed in clear tubs with little plastic shovels. Foam shrimps, cola bottles, fizzy cherries, white mice, and rainbow drops. The combinations were endless. The challenge was filling your paper bag without making it weigh so much that your pocket money disappeared instantly. Woolies Pick and Mix wasn't just about the sweets. It was about independence. For many kids, it was the first taste of choice, freedom, and sugar-fueled happiness. Whenever people talk about things Britain lost, Woolworths, and especially Pick and Mix, is always at the top of the list. 5. Home computers arrive. The 1980s brought computers into British homes for the very first time. The ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and Amstrad CPC became must-have machines. Games came on cassette tapes, and loading them meant enduring screeching noises and waiting several minutes, praying it wouldn't crash halfway through. Titles like Jet Set Willy, Manic Miner, and Dizzy the Egg became classics. Graphics were blocky, sound effects were basic, but the sense of wonder was unmatched. These early computers also introduced a generation to programming, with kids typing lines of BASIC code copied from magazines. Looking back, it's incredible to think how these clunky machines laid the groundwork for Britain's future tech boom. For those who grew up in 1980s Britain, the home computer was the gateway to a brand new digital world. 4. School dinners and pink custard. School dinners in the 1980s were unforgettable, for better and worse. The menu was often a lottery. Spam fritters, lumpy mashed potato, and overcooked cabbage weren't exactly beloved. But when dessert came, everything changed. Pink custard was the crown jewel of British school dinners. Nobody really knew what gave it the color. Was it strawberry flavoring or just food dye? But paired with sponge pudding, it was divine. Other highlights included chocolate concrete, cornflake tart, and Arctic roll. And let's not forget the classic bottle of milk at break time, sometimes delivered warm after sitting in the sun. For better or worse, school dinners were a defining memory of growing up in the 1980s Britain. 3. Smash hits and top of the pops. Pop culture. In 1980s Britain was defined by music. Kids saved their pocket money for Smash Hits magazine, which printed song lyrics, interviews, and glossy posters of stars like Madonna, George Michael, and Duran Duran. The back pages, filled with cheeky humor and reader letters, were as iconic as the covers themselves. And then there was Top of the Pops. Every Thursday night, families gathered around the TV to watch chart toppers perform. For young fans, it was the only chance to see their idols in action. Who can forget Wham! In their Choose Life t-shirts, or Madonna debuting Like a Virgin? Music wasn't just entertainment, it was identity. From cassette collections to bedroom posters, the pop culture of the 1980s defined a generation. 2. Fashion statements. You can't forget. Fashion in the 1980s wasn't about subtlety. It was about making a statement. Shell suits in neon colors, leg warmers over tights, fingerless gloves, perms, and mullets. The bolder, the better. Teenagers embraced the styles of their music idols. Madonna's lace gloves and layered jewelry were copied by girls everywhere, while boys tried to mimic the spiky hair and eyeliner of bands like The Cure. Even primary school kids got in on the action, with neon scrunchies, slogan t-shirts, and the occasional DIY attempt at looking like a pop star. Family photo albums are full of these looks, and while they might make us cringe today, they perfectly capture the fearless fun of growing up in 1980s Britain. 1. The arcades at the seaside. Nothing says 1980s childhood like the seaside arcades. Whether it was Blackpool, Skegness, Margate, or Brighton, every holiday had to include at least one visit to the flashing, noisy, magical world of arcade machines. Armed with a pocket full of 10-pence coins, you'd play Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, or Space Invaders. The 2-pence coin pushers were irresistible, clinking coins teasing you with the possibility of a jackpot that almost never came. Outside, the smell of salt and vinegar chips filled the air, and maybe you'd end the day with a stick of rock or a go on the dodgems. For many, these seaside trips are their strongest memories of growing up in the 1980s Britain. Carefree, exciting, and endlessly nostalgic. Growing up in 1980s Britain was about more than trends or toys. It was about a shared culture, a simpler joy in everyday life. From seaside arcades to mixtapes, these memories shaped a generation. They remind us that while times change, the magic of childhood never fades. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.